Hey, welcome to a very special episode of Fab Fam. No Amy today, but I am joined by the amazing Adam Cook or Chance and Daggers on YouTube.
Hey man, thanks for having me on today.
Dude.
We had a bunch of excitement last weekend.
Oh,
So
yeah.
excited to talk about it, man.
Yeah, man, I am stoked, right? So, if you don't care about people talking about their passions and you just want to go to the deck list, I'll maybe won't be lazy and put a timestamp somewhere. If not, you'll just have to scroll. But first things first, I have to talk at myself and not look at you, which is very confusing. First thing you need to do is go right now to Chance and Daggers, subscribe on YouTube, because without him, none of this is possible. This video doesn't happen, my weekend doesn't happen. I owe everything to this guy right here, so please go follow him on YouTube.
You don't gotta say all that, dude.
Today's all about Viserai, right? I wanted to play CC, Amy and I have done a lot of limited and just haven't had time for CC. I originally tried Viserai through a Zach Bun list. I wasn't enjoying it, didn't know what I was doing, couldn't close out games. So then I got with Anna Border and she showed me her casino list and I was having way more fun. Then I reached out to John Smith, great judge, you guys may know him. He's the meme on Twitter for always looking angry. Yeah, he was like, I know a guy that plays Viserai, I'm going to put you in touch. That's how I met Adam. He helped me build and learn Viserai, and yeah, now we get to talk about an amazing deck, right?
Funny thing, Anna is actually also from West Virginia, Charleston,
Yeah.
West Virginia, my hometown.
Nice.
I don't know what it is about West Virginians, but hey, maybe we're just Viserai players.
They're obsessed with purple people, huh?
Yeah, I guess.
Let's start with how long have you been playing Viserai, and how did you fall in love with Viserai? What made you want to play Viserai?
Yeah, that's and I'll keep it short because I could talk for hours about this. But I started playing right before Crucible Unlimited, which is kind of like right before Monarch, kind of like COVID times. Like a lot of people, I was like, man, just want to get into something that's a little bit more engaging than video games. So I found Flesh and Blood, bought a couple boxes, bought a webcam, convinced my buddy back in West Virginia, like, let's just open up some of these cards and figure out what the heck they do. Started playing Dorinthia, and my buddy's playing Bravo, and dude, he just like shuts me down repeatedly for like 20 games, and I was like, okay, let's move on to Arcane Rising, see what this is all about. It was something just about like Rune Blade as a class where you're like, it's kind of split damage, you're slinging like arcane, like magical rune chants and hitting with attacks, and yeah, it was just so much fun. Of course, he's playing Bravo, he's still kicking my butt repeatedly. I'm just like, oh man, I don't know what to, I'm just gonna like make as many rune chants as I can and then send them all at once. And back then it was like all about Arcanite Ascendancy because we just didn't have any of these other like aggressive, we didn't even have Mauvrion Skies, can you believe that? What do you do without Mauvrion Skies?
I think you swing once and pass.
Yeah, exactly, right. So there wasn't a ton you could do with the deck, but I still loved the flavor of the hero a lot. From that time forward, I just kind of kept coming back to it whenever new cards came out.
That's awesome. So my story is much easier. I like things because of the way they look. I'm a big fan of pink and green. You might have noticed based on the channel colors. Viserai was the most pink hero that was in the game, and so I was like, I love that hero. That's the hero I want to play. We got in around Monarch, and I didn't start playing Viserai until after, God, it was after the Anna thing. So I don't even, maybe that might have been a Pittsburgh event. The Battle Hardened was a seal, and yes, that's exactly what it was. I bought the cold foil boots from Green Tree Sports Cards, so that is the exact time that I actually finally got around to wanting to play Viserai. Yeah, so for me it was just all about looks. He was like, he looks kind of pink, and I'm like, yo, I'm rocking Viserai. And it wasn't literally until then that I got to play him, and it wasn't until this weekend that I actually finally put him in paper and sat down and played real games with him. So the Viserai journey, right? Viserai was like amazing, right? From what I've been told, and then they banned us a little piece called Skeleton, and he kind of fell off the planet, right? It's about how that happened.
It's so funny. There's like so many waves, so many emotions, so many ups, so many downs. And yeah, Skeleton was just such it was a nuts piece of armor that just lets you do ridiculous things. There was like one blitz calling, and then in Europe, and then Viserai basically LL Blitz after one skirmish season. So and that was when I stopped playing Blitz, I think. Actually.
Oh man,
I can't play my favorite hero.
I've never gotten to play with the card. The only way that I'm going to get to play with Skeletons is if I play LL, and I don't know how Starvo is post nerf, but paying Sonata and just dealing a bunch of rune damage seems pretty sick.
I mean, it's such a cool card, and they give us some cards here and there that are like Bequest.
What is that garbage?
Beyond. They're like, here, you can play this one card and maybe reduce the cost of your attack.
No, we already have cards that are reduced in attack. We don't want to reduce any other cards. Like, we want to play a buff or a Mavrine or something. We don't want to play a card that makes it cheaper.
Yeah, we want to reduce our XX cost.
Exactly.
That was the golden age, and then yeah, we got knocked down a peg. And there's one funny thing is there's been there was a golden era for Runeblade. And Viserai was always either the second or the third down the list, right? Chain kind of came along, overshadows Viserai. Briar comes along, overshadows Viserai again. And arguably Chain as well at that time. Anyways, they both LL. And yeah.
Now there's only one choice left. And then they took Rosetta away.
You know what? I'm totally okay with them being around, not getting those LL points, because that just means we
get to play them longer, right? I don't know, man. It went from, I was playing the Zakbon list, and then you can play a bunch of games, but if you don't really know what your game plan is, you're kind of wasting your time, right? And you sat down with me and you were like, hey, you want to be swinging this and then Rosetta every turn. And I'm like, oh. Okay, so this makes way more sense. So I want a blue, I want a 2 attack, or a 2 cost, and then I swing Rosetta. Like, the game makes sense now. And then Rosetta went away. And how easy was it to play Viserai then?
Oh my gosh, dude. Lexi was in here, like, giving us Bloodrot Pox tokens, like, giving us, like, 3-4 Frostbites. We can barely do anything. It was horrible.
Yeah, so, like, luckily for me, I kind of played, Rosetta was still active, and then I kind of fell off until you had already figured it out for me. I was like, bro, because you had told me, without Rosetta it was impossible to close out games, right?
Yeah, Rosetta went away, and I started, like, Bravo used to be kind of like, okay, it's like 50, maybe 55%, like, we can win that matchup. Dromai was like, I felt pretty confident in those matchups, and then as soon as Rosetta was gone, I'm playing basically same deck with Reaping Blade. I'm just getting beat repeatedly, and I'm like, it's silly because like it's almost the same amount of damage, but it's not quite the same amount of damage. Yeah, Rosetta was just such a strong weapon. Without it, we kind of had to really like challenge ourselves to build Viserai differently.
Or you just have a friend named Cook who does all the work for you. You steal his deck, make a change or two, and then Shazam. It's that easy.
Yeah, and then you're having fun again. Yeah, I started working on this deck list maybe April of last year, and of course we've gotten a lot of additions since then, but you know what? There's just something about like playing an Arcanite Ascendancy for like 8, 11, 14.
Why are you playing it for 8? What are you wasting your time with that for?
Yeah, right? Which is another thing that bugged me. When I started playing Arcanite Ascendancy, it's just that's the card you want to find sooner than later. And then with all the aggressive lists, like you just never get to play it because you never have enough rune chance for it to make sense.
Because you're creating 3 and then destroying them. Creating 2, then destroying them.
Exactly. It's like maybe if you want to play the card, you got to pitch like an extra card or 2 extra cards just to play it. So it never really felt that good. And it's a dichotomy because it's like either you make rune chance or you like continuously like swing attack. So I was thinking maybe there's a middle way somewhere.
I think it's funny because like I wanted to get back into Viserai, and so I was on stream one day, and I wonder if you could like play Arcanite Ascendancy and Ninth Blade and like buff them and attack with them and like create a bunch of rune chants. Like that'd be so cool. And then like you popped in and you're like, bro, that's basically what my deck does. I'm like, what? Am I smart? Did I just create a deck?
Yeah, I popped into your stream and you're like playing somebody else's Viserai list, and I'm like, of course I've been through this like same deck building like thoughts like one by one. I'm like, oh no, you don't need these cards, you don't need these cards. I'm like, Hank, just give this list a try, let me know what you think. Yeah, you started playing it then. I think you felt the spark because the first time you throw the big Ascendancy, or the big Ninth Blade,
it's funny though because it was one of those things where anybody can hand you a deck list. If you don't know what you're supposed to do, the deck list is useless. And so it really took me quite a few few reps and you to be like, no dude, you don't block with that. You always put that in arsenal. Or, you know, you never send it naked. You always buff it. Like, those are things that, like, until you learn them and get the reps, it's like, it doesn't really click. So my first few times playing the deck, it was feast or famine. It was like, oh man, this is so cool. I just sent 500 rune chants. And then the next game, I'm like, bro, what am I supposed to be doing here? This is dumb. This deck sucks.
If you don't know what you're doing, it can feel like that big time.
Yeah.
Like, where's my attack? Or where's my, you know, how can I make rune chants? Or how can I buff this thing?
I think probably now it's probably just a good time to just start talking about the deck, huh? I mean, I think we've covered pretty much everything else. So, you are going to have a video on this deck on your channel coming up soon. You've made some changes, I believe, and so you're going to do a big deep dive into that and tell people what's going on with this deck.
I've been talking about it a lot. I mean, some people follow my channel, Chants and Daggers, on YouTube, and I've been testing it out a lot, so some people know a lot about it. I think they didn't know whether to believe or not, but this last weekend, like, I've managed some results. Like, you had a really good result as well at your RTN, just shy of that top 8.
So close.
Outside.
So close.
I think the deck kind of has legs. It's complicated, but if you give it the care, if you give it the time, you put the reps in, then it will reward you. So I'll do a recap video of my weekend and kind of explain how, hey, this thing can show results.
You don't have to give us any details, but tell us your 2 placings.
So I played in 2 30-person RTNs this weekend. One was at Dice Dojo in Chicago, and the other one was at 401k, also in the suburbs of Chicago. Went 3-2, snuck into the top 8 on Saturday. So I was in 8th place. Unfortunately, lost the first round, didn't get the Nats invite. And then Sunday, I made it into the top 8. My first round was like a rematch with Bolton that I had lost to earlier. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna lose again, but somehow I made it past him, made it past Akano, and then made it to the finals. So
That's sick.
We didn't quite get there.
That's sick.
2 life away from winning that event.
Oh, oh man. So
shame.
crazy.
No shame.
So this deck can win, guys. This is probably the best meta for it because people are just all over the place with their decks. There's not 3 decks that we have to beat. We could get paired by the gem gods into favorable matchups and win. He finished 8th and 2nd. I finished 10th. So I think that's enough to say that this deck has legs. So my weekend, I did a little recap on Twitter, but I played into a Vincent, demolished them, played into a Kano. I showed them Tiara at the beginning of the game, turned it around so they could read it, put it back on my side of the board. He was at 23. I was at, I don't remember what I was at. I wasn't dead. He plays Aether Wildfire, and I'm like, are you passing? And he's like, no. And then he plays Metacarpus, and I'm like, okay, are you good? No. Then he plays Snapdragon, or not Snapdragon, oh my gosh. Snapdragon's game.
Wizard Snapdragons.
Plays Creepers, not Creepers. Oh my god, I can't even think of the name. I'm like, I keep going to every Stormstriders. Holy crap. Crack Stormstriders, and then I'm like, he doesn't know what Tiara does.
Yeah.
So he blows his turn, and I'm like, Tiara? And he's like, oh no. So I think he ends up doing 6 damage that turn. Actually, no, it was 5. It was exactly 5 damage because I went into my turn. I played Become the Arcanite to go get 9th Blade. I then played Runic into 9th Blade and came at him for 14 rune chants and 12. So that was more than his life total. And that was one of those things I was thinking on. I was like, do I send Ascendancy or do I send 9th Blade? And then I was like, no, easy math says this is more damage than he can possibly prevent. This is what I do. So I sent it. He tried to go off to kill me. Dug, couldn't find it. The best part was, after sending all that stuff, I still had 2 blues in hand. So I was able to just pay to get rid of some stuff. He played the Opt card, and I was like, no, blue. He did find Wildfire, but it was his last card. His last possible card that he could find. So we got there. We beat a flippin' Kano, dude. It was so exciting. I was so excited. I was like, how the heck did I just beat a Kano?
That's a big win, right?
Huge win. Then I played a Dorinthia. I looked at their equipment, realized what their equipment did, forgot to realize that there was no AB. I played the match too aggressively. I didn't see that they had an arsenal, so I had a unmovable in hand. I could have blocked 10. I did not. I was like, oh, they don't have any cards left. I can ascend 15 back next turn. They're at 12. This is going to be fine. I'm going to take some of their cards. I've already taken their equipment. This is going to be great. I'm going to send 15 back. Hindsight, there was a card in arsenal. Number 1. Number 2, they had no AB. I should have just blocked out and built up a few more rune chants to kill them. But yeah, so I went to 2. They reacted for 3. So that was my first loss of the day. I learned a lot about that match. Yeah, how many cards and what AB are you presenting are 2 questions I will be asking every game. Oh, how many cards do you have left? Oh, you've got 1 in Arsenal. Good to know. Because that card was invisible. So that was a tough loss. The slide continued into a KO where I took 2 14-powered Savage Beatdowns. I took all 3 Blood Rush Bellows. And they played whatever the card is that you discard a card and you get the Brute's attack. So he got +8 to his next attack. I saw all of that stuff and still put him to 5. I did everything I could to win that match. He drew better. At the end of the day, that's how that worked. Had the Slogism, Blue, and Ascendancy, and he forced just enough damage that I had to block. That was my day on the KO train. Round 5, we played into a Bravo. I didn't deal him any damage till like turn 4 or 5. Then I just kept it on. It was like Ascendancy, next turn Rattlebones Ascendancy, next turn Galaxia into Blessing into Ninth Blade. You know what I mean? So it was like, that's where I learned about that card, and I was like, oh, this card's so good. And then yeah, we got him down to 1. He attacked. We were able to use all of our equipment, go down to 1. I think we sent 15 at the end, and he had AB I think it was 5 with 3 cards. We still had a Red Amplify coming in afterwards, and we were able to get there. But that was crazy. So I finished 3-2, finished 10th, just outside of the top 8. But that is my first RTN ever. I finished with a winning record on my favorite hero. So thanks to this guy. And yeah, it's just what a great time to be playing Viserai. So we top 8'd on Saturday, and you're like, my RTN is not till Sunday. And so you're like, dude, you gotta run 3 Slogism. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
3 Slogism? I'm like, that kind of sounds weird. And then you're like, like, I don't want another 2 block in this deck. I put in more 4 blocks. Like, what do you mean? Like,
block more. You want to crush more.
We decided that actually attacking more was better, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's a heavy hitters meta, isn't it?
Yeah, sure is. So we just got to hit heavier. So we're going to go over his list, and then my list is very, very similar. We just have a few personal choices that we made. So we'll go ahead and start with, obviously, we're playing Viserai. We got Balance of Justice is our first equipment piece. Can you explain our use of this card, please?
Really, just in the meta right now, there's so many decks that want to draw 2 cards during one turn during the game. Effectively, it can either be a 5 block because you block with it for 2 and then you get a card you can block with that again, or maybe it like gives you the 1 blue that you need to pay for Slogism or something like that. I will say the one thing is the space in the deck list is tight. It usually is, especially with the open meta.
Yeah, there's just not any room. You'll see on the sideboard there's really just not any room to run another headpiece aside from are you still running the Kano tech?
Yeah, I need the Kano tech. Kano's cleaning up right now.
And so it's funny, like I was streaming, right? Somebody comes in and they're like, why aren't you running an offhand? You know, your deck had never had an offhand. And they're like, why aren't you running an offhand? And I'm like, Arcane Lantern, this is sick. We get to play Arcane Lantern. And then Heavy Hitters comes out. Heavy Hitters comes out and they give us an actual blocking card. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Bloodied Oval, if you're unfamiliar with that card, is a common from Heavy Hitters. Bloody Oval's defense is equal to the number of opposing heroes with greater health than you. So basically it's just an extra 1 block when you're below health, which you more than likely will be on this deck. So it's just that extra health. Then we've got the Tunic is our main option here. Tunic is very important. It helps to pay for a lot of our 1 drops in the deck, or if we're 1 rune chance short on an Ascendancy turn, it is just an valuable card. And then the 1 block when you just gotta get that 1 extra block at the end of the game. It does that for you too.
I was just gonna say, first I was thinking Carapace for extra block, but it turns out if you play Tunic and you can use that resource to pay for 1 card, you actually don't have to save 2 cards in hand to block, so you can block with an extra card. It actually helps you block for more when you play it.
Yeah, and the Tunic is so powerful. I would honestly say that I use Tunic anywhere between 4 and 6 times a game, depending on how long it goes. There is so much value in Tunic in this deck. And then one of the most valuable cards that we have here, Grasp with the Arcanite. Go ahead and talk to us about this one if people don't know about this one.
Grasp, you get to pay 2. I mean, well, first of all, it blocks for
3.
Okay, 2 temper. So block for 2, block for 1. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
First turn of the game, you're pretty much always going to be pitching into grass to make a rune chant.
Unless you've got a nutty non-attack hand.
But I mean, the other nice thing is the deck actually runs a lot of one-cost like
Mhm.
enchant generators, like Blessing of the Occult, Rune Blood Incantation. So you can just pitch to Grasp and then play your incantation off the remaining one resource from a blue or the Blessing of the Occult, things like that if you're low. But mainly it's there for early game to start your rune chant generation.
Also, if you're stuck with a bunch of blues in hand and you've already got a few rune chants, you can just overpay into it if you really want to.
Filtering cards and you're stuck with extra cards in hand is actually pretty important.
And we have two options for that. So speaking of options to get rid of some resources, we have Scepter of Pain. Came out in Dusk Till Dawn. It is a once per turn action, deal 1 arcane damage to any opposing target. Create a rune chant for each damage dealt this way. The reason that this is so important in this deck is because it does not pop your rune chants, which is incredible. So this acts as a ping you for 1, give me a rune chant? No? Okay, I was just dumping resources into this because I needed to get rid of these cards in my hand. Or, you know, I've got 2 left over because I played a 1 cost. Yeah, this card is fantastic and it enables this entire deck to operate, right?
Yeah, it's funny. When I first built the list, I was running like Reaping Blade, and then when Scepter of Pain came along, I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I need.
And then we have, geez, this card. Right? It's funny, right? Because people are used to this card probably being like the staple of the deck, right? This a lot of times is just a 1 block. I'm sorry.
In the aggressive list, Spellbound Creepers is usually an offensive like play. So you'll not have go again, you play a non-attack, and then gain an action point and keep playing. But in this deck, you're right about the 1 block, but what it lets you do is if you block with an attack action card, you can activate it defensively, pitch 1, and play one of your rune chant generators. So if you're stuck with like 2 Read the Runes in hand, you're like, oh crap, I can't play both of these on my next turn, but this is extremely valuable. You can actually play 1 as an instant on your opponent's turn, then the turn comes over to you, and you get to play the remaining 1 in your hand. So.
But are you dealing arcane that turn? Be honest. Probably not.
Nah, man.
So you're just getting your 1 block. Shut up.
Yeah. But hey, man, 3 rune chants on your opponent's turn is
Yeah, it's pretty good. 9 times out of 10, I'm just using this for a 1 block at the end of the game when I need the extra block. We get to Amplify the Arcanite. Amplify the Arcanite's a pretty obvious one, right? We're creating a bunch of rune chant. We've got the 3 reds, 3 blues. Blues are for resources. The reds are for sometimes to attack with, but a lot of times they're just block cards, right?
You gotta have some block cards in the deck, right? They block for 3.
My favorite thing about this deck is there are obvious cards that you can just block with. I don't like to think. And so when I see an Amplify and an Arcanite Ascendancy and a Ninth Blade, I know that I just block with Amplify. Like it's my block card. It might as well just say block on it. It's pretty great. But it did put in some work in my RTN. You know, if you're not seeing the Arcanite Ascendancy or the Ninth Blade, playing one of those with 20 rune chants is fine too because it's free. Buff it. You know, it's still a bunch of damage, right? The whole reason this deck exists, right? Arcanite Ascendancy. Arcanite Ascendancy is the whole reason this deck exists. Arcanite Ascendancy costs 1 less to play for each rune chant you control. It costs 6. However, the best part about this card is if Arcanite Ascendancy hits, create X rune chants where X is the damage dealt by Arcanite Ascendancy. Dominate. 5 dominate's not very impressive though, is it? No.
Some other cards.
Yeah, so
we need to make the number big.
So we're gonna talk about some cards that do that for us. But this card is absolutely just everything you want to be doing, right? You want to be saving up some rune chants, swinging in Ascendancy, eating up some armor, creating some rune chants. Fantastic. It does everything you want to do. Everything you want to do in the deck. It's just this is it. It's Arcanite Ascendancy. And it's a beautiful art. And then this card, this is an interesting one. People probably a little shocked about Blessing of the Occult, huh? That's a playable card?
Yeah, totally. Everyone's like, oh, I hate this card. It's the worst Read the Rune, cost 1. They just don't really know how to play it. This deck, we do need a lot of like high efficiency rune chant generators. This is right next to Read the Runes, obviously.
Yeah. If it's gonna cost 1, why can't it block 3 LSS? It's a worse Read the Runes. Why doesn't it have better defense?
That's okay, because we don't want to block with this card. We want to play it. It gives us 3 rune chants.
This will come into play a little later with a neat little idea that I have for turning your cards into Arcanite Ascendancy. So Come to Fight, you were only running 2. I run 3. Come to Fight is a great card because it costs 1. So you can play it off a Tunic, like we talked about. Tunic is so valuable. Playing Come to Fight off a Tunic is fantastic. Buffs all of your attacks. What else about this card? It blocks 3, which is great. If you need to. This is not a first choice block. I'm blocking with Amplify before I'm blocking with this.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's a non-attack, and there's a lot of decks that care about blocking with attacks versus non-attacks right now. So that's one good thing about the deck as a whole. There's plenty of non-attacks to block with.
And this is a card I am not running. You are running 1 Malvrian Skies. Tell us about this.
It's a recent addition. Briefly speaking, Dromai is kind of the worst matchup that we have. I was trying to find a way to kind of shore up that matchup, and you don't want to run 3 Malvrian Skies because we're actually not attacking that many times. We don't run that many attack actions in the deck, but just having that one, slinging an attack into a dragon, will give you the on hit of making 3 rune chants. So I find it helps in that matchup.
I was trying to do quick math. I think I'm running 14. You might be running 16 attack actions.
Yeah.
Amplify, Arc Knight, Ninth Blade, and then the 2 blues, right?
But we got a couple extra ones that we put in there specifically as poppers.
I'm talking about the main board. I'm not smart. I don't want to have to worry about sideboard, so I just tried to make my deck as consistent as possible to do as much damage as possible, and I ran the third Come to Fight instead of Mavrian. Mordred Tide is a fantastic card when you're building rune chants.
Oh, totally. We need to get up to 6 rune chants pretty quickly, or 9 rune chants pretty quickly in the case of Ninth Blade.
Mm-hmm.
So Mordred Tide makes an extra rune chant anytime that we make a rune chant. So that's one of the primary ways to really spike your rune chant generation.
Yeah. I think a common favorite turn 1 play for me is Mordred Tide into Grasp into Reed. That's pretty great. Or Mordred Tide into Grasp into your Incantation or into your Blessing.
The important thing is when you play Mordred Tide, every Viserai trigger that you get is amplified.
Yeah.
When you see a Mordred Tide and you have some non-attacks that make rune chants in your hand, you basically want to eat damage just so you can make a ton of rune chants.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to block with it. Blocks 3. If you got to block with it, block with it.
Actually, it's not as important
right.
In this deck.
It's a bonus card. It's not really like a focus, it's a bonus. So if you got to block with it, it's not worth dying over, but if you're going to make a bunch of chants, obviously save it, but this is not a priority to keep.
That's
all right. So we have Rattlebones, which is basically 3 more copies of Ascendancy or Ninth Blade, whichever one you need, right?
That's exactly right.
There's really not much to say about this one. This is just oh, you gave me a quicken token off of Civic Steps, and I have 6 rune chants? Sorry.
So Rattlebones lets you make an action point out of nowhere if you play it as an instant after you've dealt like 20 damage. So say it's a 5, they don't like to block so much. You're coming in for an Arc Knight Ascendancy for like 8, and they're like, you know what? I can deal more damage than you. They're like, no blocks. You make 8 rune chants. They're like, I think I can play Rattlebones, get the same Arc Knight Ascendancy back, and just play it again. And then they start regretting their life choices.
Yeah, I've done that a time or two. It feels really good. Read the Runes, arguably one of the best cards in the deck. I just wish it had Go Again. Other than that, it's fantastic.
Easy 1-card play.
Yeah.
Lets you block with 3 cards.
On to reduce the rune chant. 5 value cards, pretty good.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, actually, it's one of the best value cards in the deck.
It's fantastic,
and it's just a D-react.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, this is a 5 value card for free.
Yeah. So, usually it costs 1, but that rarely comes up when you're trying to accumulate rune chants.
And the best thing, too, is if you're behind anyway, this can also help you filter. If it's their turn and you haven't had a chance to build a rune chant, still get that rune chant, filter that card out of your hand by paying into it, and it still blocks 4. Runeblood Incantation is very important for continuous rune chant generation, 1 every turn. It also has Go Again, which is huge. Even if you only have a blue, you can still Incantation into Scepter, which is great. Yeah, this is just a great card because you're going to be sending off your rune chants a lot. Having that guaranteed 1 at least is a great way to get you started. Honestly, I would say Blessing of the Occult actually popping at the beginning of your turn is way more valuable than you think it is.
Yeah, it totally can be.
One of the cards that you slept on that I instantly threw into my Viserai deck. Talk about it, Runic Reckoning.
I mean, it's awesome, all right?
It's the best card in the deck. One of them, anyway. This turns your Arc Knight Ascendancy into an 8 Dominate. Turns your Ninth Blade into a 12, and it's free. It's free, and it's half a rune chant.
The card that I wish Come to Fight was.
Right?
Usually.
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You're like, Come to Fight, I'm like, oh no. I really wish this was a runic. Alright, then you got Sink Blow. It's just the best defense reaction in the game. We gotta stay alive. It helps us, search for those, either that missing pump or that missing Ascendancy or whatever we need, and helps keep us alive. So there's really not much to say about that card.
Good in every deck.
And then arguably, I know I've said it's like the best card in the deck, but Slogism.
Yeah.
Slogism. Why has it got a block 2, man? Come on. This card is so good. I got a few little comments on Twitter. They were like, Slogism? Slogism is OP, guys. Slogism is probably the reason that we win games.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, it's just hands down one of the best cards in the deck. We were running 2 for a long time, and now we're on 3 because we found out that consistency is just what matters about beating faster decks, right? We want to see Slogism into an Ascendancy, get our chance, destroy their armor, and just do it again, right?
That's it. You need to see the 6 pump like soon, very soon. So that's why you run 3. So I'll just have one comment about this one. It's 1 card that gets expended for a 6 pump, which is kind of equal to 3 pumps in your deck. So running 3 of these actually saves you a lot of sideboard space for other cards.
Yeah.
So it's one of the biggest strengths.
Yeah, it's a great one. I had originally tried, aside from Come to Fight, I had tried Red Oath. I found that it was, as you said, it was just too expensive. But, you know, I was excited about it being a Rune Blade card, and having Go Again, and creating a Rune Champ. But this card, why the heck are we only running 2 Sonata Galaxias? Please tell me.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. It's because you want the game to be over before you have to see a third one.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But that was actually the last change. I think I put the Mobs guys in for the 3rd Galaxia. This card is what actually made the deck viable in today's meta, because we were playing it. Like I said, I've been playing this deck for a little while, and it just didn't quite have the juice. What this card does is let you generate rune chants quicker, because you can search for an aura. As you can see, there's several Blessing of the Occult, Incantation, Rune Blood Barrier, even Looming Doom. So there's plenty of targets. Some of these, as we talked before, don't have Go Again, like the Occult, Rune Blood Barrier. And I realized that the one thing I want to say about this is, in this deck, we're not doing the traditional non-attack swing weapon. So we can't play Revel in Rune Blood. It just doesn't make sense. But Sonata Galaxia is like the Revel in Rune Blood for a rune chant generating deck, because odds are we're going to have 6 rune chants on the board. You can declare X's 3, and the rune chants will pay for the cost for you to find a 3-cost aura. So you can go get a Rune Blood Barrier, which comes into play, makes 4 rune chants, and generates 1 rune chant from Viserai trigger. So that's 5 rune chants just for playing 1 card, Sonata Galaxia.
Not to mention, because you have paid 2 or more, that has Go Again.
That's right. Yeah. So there's hardly a time whenever Galaxia doesn't have Go Again in this deck. It can happen, but yeah. So if you're playing like a Mordred Tide into Galaxia, get a Rune Blood Barrier, maybe play a Read the Runes after that.
It's so gross.
There's just so many rune chants.
It's so gross. Here's an interesting idea I wanted to run past you. I don't know if this is something that you ran into, but it's something I actually was able to do. And I was thinking that this card is more important because of the simple playline, right? So in this deck, Arknight Ascendancy is the only attack that you really want to see, because you're losing your rune chance, but then you're getting some back, right? So the biggest downfall of cards like Amplify and Ninth Blade are your rune chants are gone. Once you send them, they're gone. And so one of the biggest things that I found in my RTN was playing Sonata into Blessing into Ninth Blade is basically an Arknight Ascendancy, because you're still getting those 3 chants off the back end of playing that Ninth Blade. And that's why I think it's so good, because you're able to send all your rune chants, but then you're getting some back. And so that's why I thought like Sonata into an attack was just so good.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, because the best thing you can do in this game is buff an Arknight Ascendancy 1 turn, get the rune chance from the on hit, go into your next turn, draw into a buff and an Arknight Ascendancy, do it again. Go into your next turn, do the same thing a 3rd time, and that happens. It really does, because like I said, I guess I didn't say it, but there's 3 ways to find an Arknight Ascendancy in this deck. So in effect, we have 9 copies. We got 3 copies of it itself. We got 3 copies of Become, where we can go.
I thought you were going to go to Rattlebone since it was in order, but fine, we'll go all the way down here to Become the Arknight that we haven't talked about yet.
And the Rattlebones, of course, we can get it out of the graveyard. So anyways, we want to chain back-to-back turns of lots of rune chants and big attack. You're right. Whenever you throw a Ninth Blade,
it feels awful.
The worst feeling is like you go into your next turn, you draw an Arknight Ascendancy. You're like, I wish I had this last turn.
Yeah, I wish I had this. I'm telling you, without a fail, we haven't gotten to the card yet, but Looming Doom, every time I Looming Doom, I draw an Arknight Ascendancy the very next turn. Every time.
There's some kind of law of statistics or something. Statistic reality or something. It happens every time.
Yeah, so that for me was the biggest thing that I was thinking about with Sonata Galaxia. And like originally I was just like, okay, cool, I can play Blessing and to read the runes. 7 rune chants at the beginning of my next turn. But the biggest thing for me that I found was sending this Sonata into a Blessing into a 9th Blade was like, wow, this 9th Blade doesn't feel like crap. I get to send the 9 damage, which is great, but then it's also replenishing its rune chance, which is fantastic.
Because you got 1 from a Viserai trigger, and then beginning of the turn pops, so you're there with 4 rune chance. Pretty much, you know, you can do a lot with that if you go into another attack.
Yeah, I mean, all you need is you get those 4 rune chance, all you need is a blue and a come to fight, and boom, you can send anything. So it's like, yeah, dude, it's so powerful. So powerful. I may run a 3rd copy of this. You don't have to, but I may.
It's a very versatile card, which is great, because you need to be flexible with this deck. Yeah, you got to squeak as much value as you can, because Viserai is a F tier hero, right?
Right, yeah, absolutely. So 9th Blade's pretty easy, right? You want 9 rune chance, you send 9. This is honestly can be another block card at times. Don't be scared to block with this card. If you absolutely need it, you can go back and get it with Rattlebones. This card for me is, I don't have a big buff yet, but I've got a 3 buff, and it's been a turn or 2. I'm gonna send this, and I'm just gonna try and eat your armor. I'm gonna try and trick you into giving me your armor for this 9th Blade, so I can come with my Ascendancy and do the real damage.
That's exactly right. And then in some aggressive matches where your opponent doesn't want to block anyway, it can be good.
9 damage is still good.
Yeah, damage is still good. You're trying to turn their life down as much as possible.
Rune Blood Barrier. We're only running 2 of these. In my opinion, I would love to create more rune chance, but I've had mixed feelings with this card. It feels like getting the 4 rune chance is great, don't get me wrong. A lot of times it's 5, but every single time I play Rune Blood Barrier, I draw Ascendancy, I don't want to block, I either lose my rune chance or I have to block. It seems to like always happen that way. The card's so good, but then it's like, oh sick, I've got a blue, I've got Runic, I've got Slogism, I've got Ascendancy, I just don't block. Nope, now I have no rune chance.
I was playing against an opponent the other day, and he was also a Viserai player at heart, but he was playing KO. And I play out the Rune Blood Barrier, I pass turn, he plays a Blood Rush Bellows. I'm like, oh no.
There goes all my rune chance.
Yeah, he was like, you know what? Every time I played Rune Blood Barrier, not once did I actually want them to prevent damage. I just wanted the rune chance.
Never. I always just want the rune chance. I don't ever want the damage prevention unless it's Kano.
That's a totally true statement.
Yeah, so if you aren't aware, it's a 3 cost, creates 4 rune chance. If damage would be dealt to you, destroy one of your rune chance for each damage dealt. We never want that to happen. We just want the 4 rune chance. We don't have a lot of generators. Let's let us have it. Don't attack.
We play the barrier. We're going to block out the next turn.
Yeah, we're probably blocking out, or we're really sad about it. So only playing 2 of those, because a lot of times you'll have that in your hand as a 2 block and it feels awful. And I don't ever want to raw cast that for 3. I rarely ever want to cast that for 3. I really want to get it off of Sonata Galaxia. Become the Arcanite, fantastic card. Why can't it get Slogism? Can we get it? Can we get Rune Chant added to Slogism? Rune Blade added to Slogism, please?
Maybe newer Rata or something.
So for me, Become the Arcanite is normally getting me 3 cards. For me, I'm either going to get Read the Runes, Runic Reckoning, or Arcanite Ascendancy. Those are the 3 big cards that I'm normally getting with this card. One of the best turns you can do too is to play Mordred Tide into Become the Arcanite into Read the Runes. Feels really, really good.
Yeah, because you're getting the Viserai trigger, you get to go
twice.
Search for your Read the Runes, and you get to play the Read the Runes. It's a ton of rune chance.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
Totally agree.
So much fun. I love Become the Arcanite. Become the Arcanite early for me is a Read the Runes, and late game it's either a buff or Ascendancy.
Absolutely.
Although I did, in my Kano matchup, it went and got 9th Blade because of math. Dread Triptych. This is an interesting one, right? Why in the heck are we running this card?
Honestly, this card's come in and out of the list a few times, but Dread Triptych can make you a ton of rune chance. Usually if you play a Mordred Tide first, and then you play Dread Triptych, it costs 3, which is a downside because we like the rune chant reduction on a lot of attacks. But if you played a non-attack, you make a rune chant. If you've dealt Arcane, and that includes the rune chants triggered when you attack with it, you make a rune chant. And then if it hits, you make a rune chant. So this card is especially good if you're playing in a Dromai and you're smacking a dragon with it. The on hit is guaranteed. You're making more rune chants. Dromai doesn't play many blues, so 1 rune chant is almost a guaranteed point of damage. Yeah. That's mostly what I'd say.
A lot of times it's just a blue block 3, you know? Blue block 3 because you don't want to waste your chance on it, but it's good if you have it at the end of the game and you really need to close it out. You can get you a bunch of rune chants. Or if you've just seen no rune chant generators, it's a good way to create some rune chants. This used to be relevant that you could pummel it, but we no longer run pummels. Looming Doom. Remember how games used to be hard to close out with AB1? Not anymore, baby. I cannot tell you how many games I've closed out with an opponent at 1 just playing Looming Doom pitch 3.
Yeah, it's like Rosetta Thorn at home.
Exactly.
These days, hardly anyone ever packs AB2 against Viserai. Cards like Looming Doom that let you deal a packet of 2 arcane just let you win the game. There are some added benefits, like being able to target dragons. It really helps you in the drum.
This card reads, at the beginning of your end phase, remove a Doom counter from Looming Doom. If you do, deal 2 arcane damage to any target, otherwise destroy it. In certain matchups, this card is crucial. You want to get this out fast with about 8 chance on it. I didn't read the first half of the card, but when you play it, it destroys your chance and creates that many Doom counters. So you want to get this card out. The decks that are trying to go long against you, this helps you kind of chip away as you're building up your rune chance, and then it's dragon removal. This kills all the little annoying ash wings if you need it to, and then there's some dragons it can kill, or you can use it in conjunction with swinging your sword, having this kill off the rest of the health remaining.
Yeah, that's a nice thing.
I love seeing this card when my opponent's at 1, because I'm like, oh, I just don't do anything. I just literally just play this, but you know, you could get punished with an Oasis, I guess.
That's a nice thing about it being a blue, though. Is you usually pitch it early, and then you see it late in the game, right when you need it.
Well, see, that's something that you guys have to, if you guys have never played Viserai before, there is no pitch stack. If you think you're pitch stacking, you're playing the wrong deck. We're shuffling this thing all the time. We're shuffling this deck all the time. So don't try and pitch stack. This is not the deck for you.
Yeah, you don't need to be big brained.
Very little brain. I love this deck. All right, this is a card that you play. You seem to love it though. So tell us about Ripple Away.
It's an attack. They cost 2 and comes in for 4. It blocks for 3. Pitch is blue. The defense value and the pitch are pretty important, but the effect as an instant, you can discard it. The next action card that would produce a token will produce that many tokens -1. It's kind of just like interesting, like gotcha card, which is relevant right now
for
decks that make tokens, such as KO. Whenever they discard like an agile windup, they're like, oh sweet, I'm going to set up for the next turn, make an agility token. In response, you're like, actually Ripple Away, and then their agility token just fades into the ether.
The best part about this card on Cast Bones is that if it would create 1 or more tokens this turn, instead it creates that many -1, so no agility and minus a might, correct?
That's right. That's correct. Yep. And there's some other good plays with, for example, Dromai, Rake the Embers. Ash is a token.
1 less Ash, 1 less Ash wing.
Yeah, so they make 1 less of each of those. Pretty good. And then if you're playing Azalea and she hits you with
Blood Rot,
basically 3
Inertia.
Yes, Inertia, Fatigue, Blood Rot. And you pitch it away, and then you don't have to make any of those tokens. It's pretty great.
Pretty good, yeah.
Situational.
I don't know. I'd prefer my deck to be consistent, so I don't run these. I'm sure they're good. I can't get behind them. Sonata Phantasmia. This card's been in and out of the list a few times, huh? You're never playing this card for its second ability. If it happens, that's really cool, but a lot of times this is either, number 1, it is a sink. You're just going to sink cards into it that you want to get rid of and cycle through your deck, or this, at an absolute minimum, is Mordred Tide create 2 rune chant, because you can cast this for 0, and it will check to see if it's creating a rune chant and then create that rune chant.
Actually, it makes 3 if you play Mordred into Sonata for 0.
Oh, really?
The trigger makes 2, and then
oh, that's right.
It makes 0, but it makes +1.
Oh, yeah,
so
3.
Mordred into Phantasmia
You're right.
Is like a read the runes at home.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, so again, it's a blue 3 block, and it's sometimes relevant to just dump your hand and cycle it. And I mean, if you ever hit the bottom text, awesome, dude. That's crazy.
You arsenal it, and then you run into a hand of 4 blues. Yeah, you can pitch them all, make 6 rune chants. Your opponent has to discard 3 cards. So, but it never happens.
Then we have arguably one of the strongest blues ever created for Runeblade. It's the, if you're not seeing the Looming Doom, you want to see this, right? Because again, most people are running AB1. The age-old story of post-Rosetta is we got him down to 1 and we just can't finish the job, right? This does 2, so that is fantastic. It's a blue block 3 if you need it, or I like to see it late game to close out the games.
Totally. You can always rattle bones it back too if you need to.
And so this is your sideboard. I have not looked at this sideboard. Some of this is the same, some of it's different. We'll start with the equipment. Amethyst Tiara. We have a great story about this one in my RTN. This is a fantastic card. Kano players, don't read this card. It doesn't exist.
Okay. Well, I'll describe it and then you tell me your experience. But yeah, Amethyst Tiara, as an instant, you can destroy this and Rune Chants you control have Spell Void 1. Aggressive Viserai lists, maybe they just burn down Kano. In our list, we kind of want to build some Rune Chants first, so it's a little bit slower. So that we can avoid Kano's kill turn, we just want to have this as kind of like an onboard, kind of like fail-safe onboard Oasis Respite.
Yeah, the best thing for Kano players to do is ignore this card. Don't worry about it. It doesn't exist. Arcane Lantern. This is our Rune Blade and Kano tech. Will help bring us up to AB3, as you'll see here in a second. Not to mention, it has a beautiful full art. It's like 20 bucks. If you need one, I have one extra. Let me know. Then we play Dyadic Carapace. I don't know. I haven't talked to you about this card. I'm only playing this into Kano.
Yeah, same here.
Okay.
Yeah, initially I thought maybe it'll help me block, but Tunic value.
Tunic's so valuable. Reaping Blade. This is the only way that we can play Illusionist, huh?
Yeah, that's right, unfortunately. We just kind of died to Illusionist if they put a passing Mirage on board and we can't swipe at it. Our main weapon, the Scepter, actually doesn't target anything. It cannot destroy auras, so we have to totally change the game plan up when we play Illusionist. And Reaping Blade, it pops our Rune Chants, but you know what, we gotta have it.
This is a you made our deck no fun card, and hopefully we can grind you down with a blade, right?
Exactly.
All right, then we go to your sideboard. You are running 2 down and dirty. I would assume this is just for the Illusionist, and Dromai likes to pick cards from your hand, and you can throw this into the arsenal and surprise them with a popper.
Yeah, then you don't have to worry about it. It's a popper that you can store in our arsenal.
Well, this is new. What's this Oasis Respite doing here?
Well, I kind of... Tell you what, spoiler alert, on Saturday, my first round of top 8 was against a Kano, and I got obliterated.
Interesting. I wouldn't know about that.
Don't worry, I got my revenge on Sunday. Oasis Respite is just like, hey, you can still play it into decks that dominate, like Bravo, Azalea, but it's a little extra insurance policy against Kano too.
All right. Runic Reclamation used to be a card that we played more, but now it's pretty much just Illusionist, right?
I mean, it's a 7, so even if your attacks are getting -1, which Prism likes to do a lot, it'll still pop a Herald. It does have an on hit, and it chunks for 7 that you can destroy an aura with. Was thinking maybe agility tokens, some stuff like that, but honestly, we kind of just want to smack them.
We just want to be consistent, beat them down before that matters. This looks like a piece of mechanologist equipment here. I do not run this.
Smashing good time. We run into Fatigue Dash. It's not good unless you can blow up their item.
Yeah, I'm all about, I'd rather just have my deck be consistently doing one thing than worried about teching in a bunch of cards. It's too much for my brain. So this makes sense if you're going to see Mechanologist. I don't like having to put it in my arsenal to get the +3.
So it's like a worst come to fight.
Yeah.
In any other matchup.
2 unmovables. We're going to see this into basically Guardians and Warriors, right?
Correct. Yep.
I played into Leviathan too. Do you play it into Leviathan?
I'll play 1 of.
Cryptic Crossing, you're playing a 1 of?
Yeah, I used to have more. It's a popper. I like that it pitches yellow, so I can also throw it in my deck when I take out all the defense reactions against Kano. It is searchable if you're desperate. It's a Rune Blade card. So.
That wraps up your version of the deck. My version of the deck, like I said, it's his deck. I just changed it a little bit. The difference is I run 3 Come to Fight. I run Arcanite Shard because I'm not a pansy, and I like... Arcanite Shard is the best card in this deck. I don't care what he says. It makes every single one of the cards you pay for better. Every single one of the cards you pay for creates a Rune Chant, and guess what? You're paying for a lot of cards.
I wish I had the balls.
Mordred Tide into your gloves into a 1 cost. Yeah. Thanks, bud. Love it. I love this card. Gotta get on this card, buddy.
I can be convinced.
We both run the 2 Dread Triptychs. I run a blue Oath. I've really thought about making it a Phantasmia. I just don't have 2 Phantasmia. I really like the ability to dump resources into Sonata Phantasmia, and I've only ever had the buff come into play once, but it is nice to just be able to play it again on a Mordred turn, create those extra Rune Chants, because it creates a Rune Chant when you play it, and it does have Go Again. You can play it into something. I think I played it into an Ascendancy because I just absolutely had to attack. You know, the +1 is better than not. Otherwise, this is basically just a blue block 3 that sometimes does things, but a lot of times it's just a blue block 3. My sideboard is a little bit different. We're still running the same equipment, same reasons. 3 down and dirty, 3 Runic. I'm only running these 6 poppers, and my Kano match is a bit awkward because I do have to run all these reds to take out my defense reactions, which kind of sucks. Actually, I think I run 4 and 2 Mongers into Kano. And then Warmongers I put in case I saw Azalea, because Azalea is a really bad match for us. However, you have said that you didn't find it necessary in your last Azalea match, right?
Another spoiler alert, but I took out all my Azalea tech, and then I made it to the finals of my RTN yesterday. who's sitting in front of me? Well, it's maybe the best Azalea player on the planet, Levi Roush. I didn't have the Warmongers, but kind of changed to an aggressive game plan.
Right.
And just tried to smack them
right.
hard and fast.
I think that's the thing, is that with this deck, my original thought was I need to slow the game down and stay alive longer. And honestly, you just want to get to your Soggism. You just want to get to your come to fight. You want to be killing them unless it's the game that you're absolutely just, you have to OTK. Having more attack actions far outweighs the defense, because if you're dealing a crap ton of damage, they're gonna have to block, you know, so you don't have to block.
No, I agree, and it, like I said, it is a heavy hitters meta, and so, you know, you come across these decks like KO, Levia, Rhinar, and you need to enact your game plan quickly, so run fewer tech cards, and then just run more of the cards you want to see.
Yeah, we don't like to just sit back and defend, so this is a deck that really speaks to both of us. Obviously, he created it. I just made very few tiny changes.
Oh, this guy, We've had so many, he's trying not to take credit, but we've had a ton of conversation, and he's like, oh, why don't you add this card? Why don't you add that card? It's really invaluable input that kind of makes me think about it harder. And then some of the times he's like, hey, he said, hey, why are we playing 2 pummels right now when I'm blocking with it 40% of the time? And I said, you know what? You make a really good point. You know, if we're blocking with this card and it's a 2-block, like, maybe we should consider something else.
You guys want to check out this deck? I don't know if you've watched this entire video. It's far too long. If you are interested, again, make sure you check out his channel. He will be doing a deep dive on the deck. He has made some changes, and he's going to talk to you more about how the deck fully operates. And yeah, really appreciate you hanging out, dude. Thank you for teaching me all about Viserai. Thanks to you, I got to play my favorite hero and almost top 8.
Hey man, you did great. I'd love to see it. You've come a long way. You're killing it. So keep playing the purple guy, man. Believe. Believe.
Viserai or bust. Viserai or die. You know what I mean?
That's right.
All right, guys. Till next time. Peace.